what I find looking after builders, and especially looking after builders that haven't established good relationships with designers and
it's a whole package.
it's like, we'll use this, it's like you've got the builder over here, you get to be the big mug, okay? You got the designer over here, you've got the client here, okay? And it's almost like the builder's got to do this part, or it's like, oh no, now it's with the designer, or it's like, oh no, now it's with the client.
Yeah.
And it's like this triangle or this pyramid of like, it's yours, it will come back to me. It's like there's no cohesiveness, there's no collaboration of like, no, it's not a designer and it's not a builder and it's not a client, it's a we as a team.
Yeah.
And I think
that's how it works.
That's how it works. And what I find is, because I listen very deeply, if that's the best word, with how builders speak a lot in coaching. And they're like, a recent example was a great builder, a great guy, very, very good builder. He likes designers, but he doesn't consider designers an extension of his team. And so it's always like, oh, we'll be back with the designer, it's with the client, they're working on their part, and then it'll come back to me and I'll work it into a scope or a budget. And then if that doesn't fit, then there's a conflict, and then it's back to the design, and then there's a complete miscommunication of this collaborative pyramid, if you like, that could have been massively avoided. So what I want your takes on what I'm saying. It's just A, like that. That is sent. B, what are your takes on that? And then are you doing that very, very successfully, which I mentioned? Wow.
Yeah, that's basically the difference. So the whole process, say for example, it's a renovation. First meeting, I would never go to a site meeting without the builder.
Okay.
I'd never go by myself because there's no point. I can draw whatever, well, to my ability. But if the builder's not part of that first initial conversation, there's no point. Because we might be talking about extending out there and the builder goes, well, there's panel lines there. We're going to need a massive structural member there. I can't get the crane there. Well, we're going to have to come up with something completely different. Or we're going to have to extend out there or whatever. And it just changes the whole process. But also it allows the builder to be involved. So the builder's actually got skin in the game, I suppose, is that they're involved in the design, so they're actually feeling part of the design. Yes, that takes some time of theirs. I've got no problem with builders charging for the client for that. So a lot of the builders would, depending on the scope of the project, would charge maybe $3,000 to quote the project, and if they get it, they get it. But in saying that, 90% of my jobs, the builder that's involved in the start does it. So it doesn't really become an issue. It's the only time it becomes an issue is when the budgets are blown. So say for example, we've got a job like budget's $450,000 and it comes back and the quote $750. Client straight away starts looking somewhere else. And you go, hang on, because they're just going to go, and it happens all the time. They're just going to go for the cheapest quote. And then they're going to get screwed because someone hasn't allowed for this, and they've just hit them with various. But what we do is we go, okay, well, how can we change that? And that's the difference. So we work together. So it might be just me and Chris having a Zoom going, okay, we'll have a look at this in 3D, see that thing there. If we just change this, well, that straight away we're going to save $100,000 just by doing that. Or I've shown the tile deck. Let's just make a timber deck. And I can tell him straight away the square meters while we're on the phone. And he can say, well, that's going to save $50,000. Things like that. And it's literally that communication, working together, that changes the whole thing. So I work with most builders in the same way. Some don't want to. Makes it harder.
There's a thing called and it's a pretty big principle in the coaching space, called masterminding. And a lot of people don't really understand the concept of a mastermind, but it's when you have multiple people that are all aligned, speaking the same language, and they start to create ideas and intuition that's far greater than one person, because they're all open to it and they all really want to help each other in a collaborative environment. And I had an example. I bought the worst property, best street in Mitre, so for you Mitre Beach and the point and everything else. I bought it probably 12 months ago. It was a complete ugly thing. Everything was wrong with it you could possibly imagine. I didn't have a designer or a builder with me. I just think I sometimes know more than I know. But and I went in there wide enough to see the beach, and that's all that mattered to me. From it, I'm a creative even on the beach having. Finance guy, I'm quite creative, right? And so I saw the view and I saw the picture and I saw the vision. I saw it. And then asbestos was there, and then there was this there and that, and the fool had to gut the whole thing. And there was a problem is that there was a beam run straight through the centre of the house, which divided the kitchen, but the kitchen looked over all of the beach if you had the right, what's it called? Islands.
Yeah.
You had the right island, you're laughing because you got the whole box head.
Yeah.
And so I'm the builder who's a good mate of mine who was just helping me out. I didn't even have that building engagement. Was like, I like beam, that's going to be a tricky one. And then we had the engineer who was in there as well, who was helping me out, and he's like, I just don't think. And then we've got a steelworks guy who's a client of mine, and he comes in who effectively, installs the beam, doesn't whatever the right terminology is for fabricator, is it metal fabricator? Yeah. He comes in, he's like, why don't you just from that beam remove the beam, and then I don't know the correct terminology here, but you've got then the running parts of the business, the building starts with P. So there's not pylons, but it's anyway. There's things at the top. I'm going to build up. Runs across, and then instead have inserts, so you don't need the beam anymore.
Yes, that's one thing with renovation.
Yeah,
you must hide the beams.
Yeah, so we did it. We got it done, but it wasn't me. It wasn't the builder. It wasn't the engineer. It was the steel guy that did it and suggested it. And then everyone's like, "That's not that big."
Brilliant.
But my point in telling the story is that if you go to a client as a builder, for example, without a designer, you're already behind the eight ball.
Yes.
If you go to a project as a designer without ability, behind the eight ball.
100%.
If you go to a project with a designer, with a builder, with an engineer, and with the best interest of the client all at heart, you're going to have an absolute cracker experience right from the get-go, because that design, that finance element at the start is like getting off on the right foot, which has this huge compounding impact on everything you're going to do.